Shading, guys, what I want you to do is pick one of them and just very carefully and neatly try to practice like an elliptical shape. And sometimes I'm a little rusty on this, like a squished, it kind of looks like a little gummy worm shape. It's like a little squished ellipse that goes below it. Okay, so this is your cast shadow, and I'm using the dark brown. I'm just really lightly shading that in. I'm not pressing hard at all. I'm just going around the edges, just doing a really thin coat of brown. You can use the sienna brown, dark umber, whichever one you prefer. You can kind of experiment. Okay, so we're doing, no. On your desk. I tried to make sure everybody had a hand sharpener. If anybody needs to borrow my hand sharpener, these hand sharpeners make really nice long points, which is way better. And you're not supposed to put Prismas in the electric sharpener because the wax will clog the sharpener. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do an analogous. You can use yellow on this, and you can use green. So y'all wanted to do blues. I totally forgot that if this is not monochromatic, then you'll need to pick one of the greens. Did everybody hear that? It says to do the analogous sphere, all right? So what I'm going to do is, this is just, and I'm going to put a really thin core shadow of the dark brown. Now, what I'm doing is going around in a C shape all the way around the left side, because our light source is going to be coming from the top right, okay? Yeah, I'm burnishing in little tiny small circles. And I'm just going to kind of fade this off. This is a base coat, and some students that are doing other features of the face, like I always say to shade features really lightly. So the darker you do this, the darker the shadow will be. So I'm not pressing very hard. You can be very minimal with this. It's kind of a map of where the highlight, midtone, and shadow will be. The little tiny circles. It makes your highlight pop a little bit more. So, you know, one mistake I did make is right here where the highlight is located. I would like my contour to be very transparent. So look, what I'm going to do is I'm using gray paper, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to erase. Oh, there's something really awful on this eraser. I'm going to erase as much as I can of this highlighted area right there. Okay, so next what I'm going to do, I'll just wait for you guys to catch up, but how many of y'all need more time on finishing just a little base coat here? It doesn't really have to be that profound. I got a graphite smear on here. Lovely. Okay, so next, and I will post this, so if you need to watch the video again later, that's fine. I'm going to take the True Blue, and I'm not pressing hard, guys. The key to successful color pencil techniques is to work in really thin layers where you're not applying a lot of pressure. And clockwise and counterclockwise, because it's a sphere. And you can apply more layers towards the core shadow, but I'm going to aim to get all the way to the edges, eliminate my outline on the left side, and then I'm going to fade up really thin. Now, I will tell you that this is kind of an advanced skill, so if you don't get this on the first try, please don't beat yourself up about it. I just want to see that you tried to follow my instruction. And just like anything, the more you practice it, you get better at it, okay? So please be aware that this might not be something you get on try number 1. Carefully fading up towards a highlight, and I'm going to use the white of the paper for the highlight. We're not going to blend any white in there. And it's easier to not have to take off. It's easier to work really thin and add more layers as you go. So all I have for me, so I can use that middle tone blue for the shadow. But now I'm going to grab my blue violet, the PC933, and just in the core shadow, the very edge of the core shadow, in tiny little circles, I'm going to establish the darkest point of my sphere. And just very carefully fade that into the midtone. And since we're making this analogous and I want to use green, we're going to use the light green next. If you want to use the dark green, you can experiment with whatever green you want, just so you can figure out how to do stuff like this on your own. Okay, so just take a look right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my really sharpened apple green, and I'm going to start at the core shadow and work my way all the way to the highlight. So this is what's going to make it analogous, is this layering of cool colors. And I feel like my midtone is a little bit bright, but... So since we're talking about analogous colors, based on what I have so far, if I wanted to add another color to my highlight, which color would I pick? Yes, that's correct. Who said that? You could try it. You could try using yellow there. You don't have to, but you could. And you can try different colors in your cast shadow. So just remember that your cast shadow is going to be darkest at the base where it touches the object, and then it fades lighter. So you don't have to have a super dark cast shadow all the way to the edges, because if you remember, shadows kind of fade off a little bit. And sometimes there is a reflective light that bounces from the surface. That's basically it. I'm going to come do a quick walkthrough and see where you guys need help. And I'm going to label this analogous, because eventually you'll have a whole collection of these. Do y'all want to do a monochromatic one real quick and get another grade out of the way?
Yes.
How are y'all doing on this one? Do y'all want to do the monochromatic one now or later? Do y'all want to do monochromatic red? Does everybody have a red? Okay, there's only one thing. I drew all my circles in blue, which is fine, because the outline's not supposed to show. Does everybody have red? Or would you like to use orange? What color would you like to use? Red? Okay, so then all you really need, since it's monochromatic, can anybody guess what we're going to do first? The cast shadow outline. And then what else am I doing next? We're not doing red first. This is brown. Since it's monochromatic, I'm only going to use two colors. I'm only going to use the PC942 as a base for values. And then I just noticed that this says Scarlet Lake, which is not the right color. You need crimson. Crimson red should be the one that came with your set. Okay, so crimson red and dark umber. Does everybody have those two colors? Yes. Well, if you don't have a crimson, you can just use a brown underneath and just get your values established first. I'm going to label this one monochromatic. And you guys can upload this to the same folder and it'll be fine. Yeah, I'm just doing a little base coat of values, core shadow, midtone, and just fading it as light as I can into a highlight. Remember, our light source is coming from top right. Oops. And then anyone else doing base projects, as soon as I'm done with this, I'll come help you guys. Remember that the smoother your base coat is, the smoother the top coat will look. Is brown base coat, and so I'm going to go over it with my red. Make sure it's really sharpened to blend those layers. What I'm doing, in brown because there's really not much of an impact on the difference between my core shadow and my midtone. So you know what? What's the solution to that? If I did not put enough brown as a base to establish my shadow to midtone, what can I do afterwards?
Can you go back over with more brown?
Yes, I can. And that's really, really important to do. If you have an indigo, it's actually more desirable to use a dark indigo instead of the brown, but brown is a great alternative. Look at how I'm closing up on my highlight. I just did a really thin layer, which could be like a pink. Hey, if y'all still have your blue violet handy, I'm going to mix a little bit of blue violet into the cast shadow. And if you would like to try to see what happens if you add a little bit of blue violet to the darkest part of the core shadow, you'll notice that it'll make your red look and brown blend look a little bit darker. All right, so one more layer of red, and I'm going to call this complete. Hey guys, don't forget that I am recording this lesson. All right, I'm wrapping this up. I'm just blending up to my highlight, which I think I lost my nice, harmonious, circular highlight there. Oopsie. Okay, I am going to stop now, and it'll just start auto-playing it, so...